I'm the program director for training of the Madrichot Kalot at the Eden Center, and I'm an experienced Kala teacher myself. We're so happy to be sponsoring this evening about intimacy while on vacation, context, expectations, and opportunities. Now, I know that not everyone is going on vacation this time, especially during Corona, but hey, here's to dreaming of going on vacation. And for those of you who are going on vacation, perhaps we can speak about some of the issues that come up regarding sexuality and vacation. And if anyone has any ideas of where to go on vacation, we'll be happy to share that too. Tonight, we will be addressing questions that we have recently received in the field of when we announced that we were speaking about this topic. So we will be addressing those questions. I'm hoping that the answers will illuminate the questions that individuals have and will illuminate it not just for those individuals, but for all of us who are listening to the cases. The Eden Center works to improve the experience of the mikvah and promote the spiritual, emotional, and physical health of Jewish women and families, and provides intimacy education for different stages of marriages. I would like to start with a disclaimer. The therapists in tonight's webinar are all from and will be sharing suggestions in that context. With regard to personal practice, speak to your halachic authority if you have any questions. We are inviting you to send your comments privately to Dr. Naomi Grummet, the director of the Eden Center, who will be passing on the questions to me. At the end, we will display the panelists' phone numbers and emails, and if you would like to speak to any of the panelists further, they would be happy to do so. Let me introduce our panelists. We'll start with Dr. Ribner. Dr. Ribner is the founder and director of the Sex Therapy Training Program in the School of Social Work at Bar-Ilan University. He's certified as a sex therapist in Israel and the US. He is in private practice as a sex and marital therapist in Jerusalem for decades and has authored 2 books on the subjects, of which his most recently released this year, co-authored with Tali Rosenbaum, I Am for My Beloved.
Thank you.
Welcome. Lizzie Rubin, where are you? Spotlight, please. There you go. Lizzie Rubin is an individual, couples, and sex therapist with special training in abuse, postpartum depression, pre-weds, and newlyweds. She directs Eden Center's Mikveh Attendant course programming in Israel and abroad. Hi, Lizzie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Jody, where are you? Hi, Jody. Jody Wachbress is the founder of the Oasis Center and specializes in marital and family therapy and couples and sex therapy. She is currently pursuing her doctorate in clinical sexology. Thank you to our speakers. Once again, we are talking about vacation sex, intimacy while on vacation, context, expectations, and opportunities. Here is the first question that we received on the topic. We're set to take a night away. I'm really excited. I heard there's a concept called vacation sex. Can you please explain what this is, please? How is it different from regular sex? Who would like to tackle that question? Jody, would you?
Okay, I guess I'll tackle that question first. The difference between vacation sex and regular sex is not that much, quite honestly. You know, if you have a healthy and happy sex life, then you bring that with you on vacation and you bring that with you when you come home. I think that the title of this webinar actually gives us a little bit more of a focus, which is, you know, context and expectations and opportunities. Like sometimes when you go on vacation, you're sort of like mishaneh makom, not mishaneh mazal, but mishaneh, you know, what you're feeling and what you're able to do, and privacy if you're going on a vacation just together with your spouse. You may have some opportunities to be more spontaneous within your scheduled vacation. You may be more relaxed. You may have less things that you're worried about. That's all of the wonderful pieces of vacation sex. Sometimes there are expectations going away. You know, it's like the Zimmer syndrome, where people sort of assume that if they're going to a Zimmer, there's going to be some sexual activity, and that can create some kind of anxiety, maybe for people that feel that kind of anxiety when they come home from the mikvah, that their expectations may raise some performance anxiety. The nice thing about vacation is that generally we plan vacations and we have some time to be able to address these issues and to sort of create not just the external context of going to a Zimmer or to a hotel, or camping would be a little bit different. We have the opportunity to, when we're planning, to think, about what we would like and to open up that discussion. So I think that there are some differences when it comes to vacations, and there are some things that would be great for us to be able to even experience on vacation and bring home with us in terms of the great stuff.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that I think we're talking about a vacation without kids. And I think one of the nice things about that is that you get to remember what you were like before you had kids. Your relationship somehow goes back to just the two of you, and there's no pressures. And I think that is sort of like a goal of, for a couple to just enjoy each other's company and somehow bring back some of those feelings they had when they were, just dating or just married. And it sort of makes it different than when you're at home with all the kids and everybody's around and you have to be quiet or you have teenagers. So I think vacation sex is like private and time for each other, and it kind of reminds you of why you married this person in the first place.
I think it's interesting you saying, that you should always look back to what it was like before you had kids. But I think that's actually something that we have to build up throughout a marriage, that it's not just about the time that was without the kids, but there's always that time throughout our life where we're focusing on us as a couple. And I think vacation sex is just reinforcing that time, or at least the vacation itself is just reinforcing that time that you have as just the two of you. So not so much as like going back, but like focusing now, like don't forget to reconnect all the time. And I think it's, like charging up your phone, your phone wears down on its battery, and every once in a while you got to like put in a little bit of a recharge, and then you're like, okay, right, this is who we are. So I feel like that's one of the ideas, not to let, one of the ideas is like, how can we just get a little bit more koch, a little bit more energy to be able to remember that we are also people and not just parents.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anyone else? Otherwise, I'll go on to the next question.
I want to hear from David. Wait.
Oh, no, I'm okay. We're doing fine. Let's go.
Okay.
I want to have question number 2. I want to have romantic fun on my vacation. How do I build that in? So when this one came in, I thought I would be the one, I should address this one. What I immediately thought of when the question was asked was a packing list. We're about to go on a family vacation to apparently a yurt, although it's called in America a yurt, I think. Which reminds me, by the way, I think, Jody, you said Zimmer. Just so everyone knows that Zimmer is like a bed and breakfast. It's like a little log cabin. So that's what we have here. A lot of people go away to that in Israel. I don't know what's happening in America. It's usually like Airbnbs and things like that. So it would be like comparable to that. We're going to this yurt, but we could talk about that another time. But what do you pack with you, right? So, you take with you your food and you take with you your clothing. And I think if people want to have a romantic vacation, they actually have to think about what they're going to take with them in order to make it romantic. Like, are you people who like to use candles, when you get intimate? So maybe that's something that you want to put in your packing list. Maybe you want to bring some music, not that you have to bring it, but you want to think about what you're going to make your playlist, how it's going to be that playlist specific for this vacation. People might want to pack their vibrators if that's something that brings them more sexual pleasure. So maybe that's something that they want to bring with them. Maybe special pajamas. Maybe they should buy something new for vacation. And I think, Lizzie, you differentiated if you're going away with your children or not. Assuming, not everyone here has children, and that's okay also if it's just you and your spouse. Or if you're not married at all, that's also okay. But what do you want to bring with you, right? So I think that if you're going away with a spouse and this is just the two of you without anyone else. So maybe buy something for the special occasion, right? The more that we plan things, even though it's funny that this should be spontaneous, but the more that we plan things, the more that we're going to get out of things. You know, what movies are you taking with you? Sometimes they have the Wi-Fi there and you can download whatever, sometimes not. So maybe you want to think about that, you know, books that you want to bring that, you know, arouse thing. So I think those are some of the things that we should be bringing with us in our tikim, in our bags.
I just want to add that just another idea that popped into my head is bringing something to surprise your spouse. You know, you're bringing something to be together, which is great. But I think also sometimes when you do something like a surprise, if they like surprises, not everybody does, but it sort of like adds to the closeness and like, oh, that's fun, you know. That I just wanted to add that little piece.
You also want to add, like, pack your attitude. You know how, like, you get a list in Israel, you get a list for your kids, like what you're supposed to bring on a teal, and you have to bring 2 liters of water and water shoes and blah, blah, blah. And they always add the matzav ruach, kova v'matzav ruach. You know, bring a good attitude. And when you're going on vacation, you want to pack that good attitude. You want to set your intentions and maybe even start before vacation. Like, be a little flirty, be a little like, I can't wait for, you know, tonight, or I can't wait for, you know, that little time that we're going to be able to grab for ourselves. And, you know, so pack a matzav ruach and some lube.
And I think also, I mean, don't forget the wine and the chocolate and, you know, any different kinds of things like that. That would also be important. So I think it's also, you know, your physical, you want to be able to eat, you know, what you look like. I always like to think about it based on like the 5 senses, you know, like what you want to listen to, what you want to see, what you want to taste, what you want to smell. So get your 5 senses all into that, and the power of touch, and bring that with you.
That's nice.
Are you done? Okay. I also, you know, when I think about also the you know, a romantic vacation, I don't know if it's with everyone, but here in Israel, they publicize all the time the simmering with like the hot tubs and the, what's it called? They always have these like romantic like things set up. So I was wondering if any of you wanted to comment on that.
Why don't we go to the next question? I can comment on some of that in the context of the next issue that we have to bring up, okay?
Okay, sounds good. I'm a bit nervous about our upcoming vacation. I'm afraid that my vacation won't live up to my expectations, or even my husband's. So,
you know, 2 of the concepts that we are going to be dealing with repetitively this evening are expectations and communication. And I think that we are really advocating that before people come on one of these vacations, they have some sense of the reality of the experience. You know, yes, there's much we can bring along that will perhaps enhance the experience, but ultimately we bring our own histories, our own experiences. We bring the same bodies that we had before we walked into the door of the hotel until after we walk in the door of the hotel. And I think we need to have some sense of grounding here, some realistic perspective about what it is that's going to be so different about this vacation sex. If the sex has been good all along and this is an opportunity to enhance it somewhat, I think that is, in fact, highly realistic. If sex has been problematic and people are looking for vacation sex as a way of resolving issues, as a way of resolving conflicts, I think people may be disappointed. And this is particularly going to be relevant if people are not talking to each other about what their expectations are. If they're coming into this with one of them wants to just, you know, be able to sleep late, and another person, you know, would like to have more energetic sexual experiences, they're likely to have a situation in which their disappointments are going to overwhelm their satisfactions. So I think that we need to just have, you know, a piece of realism that accompanies all of our preparations and all of our expectations. Couples, this question here inherently implies that couples may not have spoken with each other about it and may be afraid that there will be disappointment because one person is building, you know, a dreamland based on having 2 nights away from the kids, And again, someone else is saying they just want some peace and quiet. So we are not in any way saying don't try to enhance this experience, and don't bring to it your creativity, and don't bring to it opportunities that you may not have had before. But those cannot be disconnected from who you are and who you've been, and where you've come from every minute before you step into your Zimmer or your hotel room. And just, you know, an additional piece of that, sometimes the expectations here revolve around the kinds of changes that one member of the couple may feel is more radical than they want to tolerate, and the other couple, the other spouse may feel this is just sort of a normative action that can accompany this new environment. One of our previous webinars, there was a question we didn't get to about whether or not people should feel comfortable sleeping naked or being naked with each other. And I think this is sort of a classic example of what could be a potential for some kind of a feeling of lack of ease one with the other. If that is something that one of them wants, and it hasn't been part of their lives until now, all of a sudden stepping into that without somehow communicating that prior to walking into the Zimmer, prior to even making reservations, may in fact create a situation that is going to not only not enhance the intimacy this couple wants to share, but in fact may bring them back home with a sense of, you know, wasted opportunities and messages that were just not communicated properly or not heard properly. So I mean, I don't want to necessarily just put a damper on everyone's enthusiasm here, but I think there needs to be some sense of reality. And the reality is we are not different people across the board, whether or not we are sleeping in beds at home or sleeping in beds in a hotel room. We are the same people, and people need to recognize that whatever we do has to be based on that reality.
If I can add to that concept of opportunity that you brought up, opportunity requires responsibility, right? Like if we see something as an opportunity, and you know, it's very easy to say, oh, okay, we're going to have an opportunity to be together and have a great, you know, sexual experience because we're going away, and that's a little bit of a cop-out. It's really, really important to recognize what your goals are. You know, if this is a vacation that you really want to increase the romance, and you would love that, and you would, you know, you would look forward to that. You may be uncomfortable with that, you may be excited about that, but name it. Like, say it out loud to yourself. I want this to be a great opportunity. Okay, well, if I want this to be a great opportunity, I need to do everything I can to make it a great opportunity. And what does that mean for me? You know, personally, what does that mean for you? What do you think it would mean for your spouse? And make it happen. It's such a, you know, it's such a wonderful experience to be able to be true to yourself and to say, if I want a, you know, a great romantic evening, that would include, you know, a nice meal, a relaxing walk on the beach. So how are we going to incorporate that into our vacation? Because we can. It's a vacation. We get to do that. We have that opportunity. Let's use it. You know. So it's sort of like pulls together everything that we've been saying in terms of packing intention and opportunity and creating the context, not just expecting the context to do the work for us.
And also, I do think, though, it's an opportunity to, like, also, you know, like sometimes people have been, you know, in the mood to try something different, or try, you know, like create almost like a different sexual script than what they're used to doing. And I feel like it's a wonderful opportunity. A lot of times, like, couples are set in like a, you know, sexual script that they do over and over and over again. Why am I muted by the, oh, unmuted.
You're good.
Well, okay, fine. So I think that it is an opportunity. A lot of times couples keep on going through a certain sexual script, and they want to get themselves out of it, and they want to try something new, but they just don't have the opportunity, because it's almost like by the time they get into bed, they're exhausted, they have other things in their mind, and being on the vacation frees them from that. and allows them to be in a different space. So I would say that that's an opportunity to try different things, to see if different things work. You know, if it goes for, you know, like go for it. And I think a lot of times, like, people have those ideas in their mind, and this is an excellent opportunity because they actually have the one thing that they normally don't have, which is, like, you know, space in their mind to, like, focus on just the two of them together. So I think that that's also a good opportunity.
So Judith, is, you know, sometimes we agree and sometimes we don't agree. But it's interesting to hear all the different ways of looking at it. I think that as sex therapists, many times we get couples that go away for the weekend, just, you know, they're not doing so well at home, and they figure, okay, we're gonna go away, and then we're gonna heal everything there. And they already started with some pains and some wounds, and it isn't really the time to fix it, but they think, let's go away and spend some time, and we're gonna fix it. So I think it's a great idea to go away and to spend some time, but I would just like to say, if sex is the thing you're trying to fix, sometimes you have to lower the expectations and say, you know what, let's just enjoy them. We know we have to work on that, but let's just enjoy the moments that we have together. Let's do fun things together. Let's you know, find things that we like to do together, so that part makes them feel good and close and comfortable. And I think the pressure of going away and to have sex for a couple that don't usually have a good sex life, it can be overwhelming. So I'm just saying, for those of you or anyone that goes away and think that's going to heal it, yes, pack your bag and plan it and talk about it beforehand. But if you know that there's things to work on, plan on just having a good time together. I think that that's important too. Just being away from the kids, being in a different environment is just something relaxing, and you can enjoy yourselves together and then see what happens. But that in itself has a lot of value.
Just to add one point to that, to what Lizzie's raising now, I think we need to also remind people of a point we've made previously in these webinars, which is sex is not a metaphor for sexual intercourse or orgasm. And if those are set as goals, that really can nullify the potential for other kinds of pleasurable experiences that people may want to enjoy with each other, that may take a little bit more time, that may take a little bit of opportunity that they will not have in their home environment. So enjoying oneself is in a widest possible repertoire of opportunities with regard to physical intimacy, and not necessarily intercourse and orgasm, should also be part of the enjoyment that people can expect from this kind of experience.
Okay. I think that actually Lizzie's point relates to our next question, because the next question that we received was, we're having a hard time connecting over this Corona time and need a chance to rekindle our relationship in general. How can we use a vacation to enhance our ability to connect? Mm-hmm. So I think that's really like what you were pointing out. Like I was, you know, we were talking previously about the couples that were having, you know, like good relationships and just wanted to enhance even more. But I think that this one is a couple that's having difficulties, and they're looking for ideas. Does someone want to take that one? Jody?
Can you read the question again? Read the question again, sorry.
We are having a hard time connecting over this Corona time and need a chance to rekindle our relationship in general. How can we use a vacation to enhance our ability to connect?
Yeah, I think a vacation is a great opportunity, again, because we're talking about intentionality, as long as you guys are on the same page, as the couple is on the same page. And it is a great opportunity. I mean, being, you know, stuck seems to be the password for the past, since, what is it now? I'm losing track, 6 months already here in Israel, pretty much in the US also, in England. And we want to unstuck ourselves. We want to be able to do something that changes things up a little bit. And vacation, whether it happens at home or somewhere else, is an opportunity to do that, to be able to say, let's shake things up a little bit. You know, if we're taking a vacation in our bedroom, let's shake things up in our bedroom a little bit. Let's get those candles, because you can do that. You can order them online. You can run to Big Tubav, right? It just happened. We had all these great sales on candles and flowers and chocolates, and they're probably trying to get rid of their stuff still. You know, create vacation at home. You don't have to wait to go away to be able to sort of to feel a little unstuck. Do things that will unstick you. Act it out. Even role play that you're on a vacation. And I really think the intentionality is the key here. Sometimes it's hard to say, you know, to speak about, you know, romance and sexuality once you're in a, you know, a long-term relationship. You know, I'm married 25 years, right? It's been a long time since we were newlyweds, and, you know, I walked home and got butterflies in my stomach. But maybe we want to look back at our wedding album or look back at our times when we were dating and try to, you know, to bring up those feelings. Those pictures really, really help. And just sort of like, maybe like get that giddiness back. I think it's a great question. I think that doing something, taking action to remind yourselves that there's still life. You know, it's very ironic because orgasm in French is called le petit mort, which I'm not pronouncing very beautifully, but it's the mini death, because it's sort of like your body goes into a different state. But I think that's I don't think that word is great. I think it brings life. I think that sexuality, not only because of procreation, you know, but the recreational sex is enlivening. It awakens our body. It awakens all of our senses. And right now, with all of this sort of like yuck, stuck feeling, it's such a great opportunity to remind ourselves that we're alive and life is happening, and we don't want to just let this time go by. Let's take advantage of it. So I'm not sure if that directly answers the question, but I hope a little bit it does.
It's good advice.
Is there like specific advice that we can also give them to rekindle their relationship?
Well, we can, yeah, go ahead.
Lizzie, did you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to say that the reason I asked you to read the question again is because it was really a Corona question, right? It's about in these crazy times, and let's just validate that Corona is, you know, has put a damper on everybody's lives in some way or the other. You know, not just in the bedroom, but outside the bedroom. And I liked what you said, Jody, when you said like this really brings life, and I think that even though, you know, people may be very anxious about their livelihood, or maybe, you know, worried about having to be in quarantine or getting Corona. Many people have gotten it. And it's really, we are going through crazy times. So this is really the time to connect with your spouse and hold on to each other. And if you can get away in these crazy times, it's even more the time to connect and to feel like being there for each other. Like you said, Jody, make it you know, it's normal. It's normal to want to be together and to forget about everything else and go to that part of our brain that just shuts everything else out and just be there. I mean, even if we don't go out on vacation, make our mini vacation in our house, but certainly, you know, going away really helps you focus on, we're getting away from this craziness and it's just the two of us, and let's forget about everything and just enjoy the moment.
Thanks. And I think one of the things that we have been seeing also throughout Corona is that when couples are like alone together or just like stuck in their house for a really long amount of time, they kind of work around, try to clean up shop a little bit. And I think I've seen that a lot of couples are also trying to figure out how to make that reconnection, right? What happens like in the past where they really haven't been spending so much time together, and all of a sudden they're spending a lot of time together. What do they do with that? And I feel like that also happens in the bedroom, right? If you haven't been spending a lot of time in the bedroom and all of a sudden you have time, or you're more, you know, you have more vacation time or whatever it is, you have time to spend together, people find that like first step a little bit awkward. Like what do you do? And I think, you know, there are specific exercises that you could do to like reconnect, you know, like one of the things that Jody, you've spoken about in the past is like hugging to relax, you know, like as a starter, like you're looking for something, you're like, okay, we're in our bedroom now, we're on vacation, what do we do? So maybe Jody, do you have a little bit of expertise explaining us like those exercises?
Sure. So there's an exercise that's called Hugging Till Relax. It's by David Schnarch, which if you try to spell it, good luck. He was actually in Israel a few years ago, and I got to hear him speak. And he has this concept of hugging till relaxed, that what it basically means is, in general, people's average hug time is about 6 seconds until someone starts to feel a little uncomfortable, either emotionally or physically. My neck, my arm, or this is a little too close, or and the exercise is to hug through that, is to hug, shoot for an 11-second hug, shoot for a 12-second hug, and see how it feels to just be there together. Feel the nice part of the hug, feel the part where it tends to get a little bit uncomfortable, and feel the part that sort of opens opportunity for a new physical experience. So it's a way of renewing a relationship that maybe going on for a long time, and just experiencing something different. It's taking some time to just hold each other. And sometimes these exercises can bring up emotion. Sometimes you start giggling. I've worked with a lot of couples that I tell them, they look at me like I'm crazy. And then I tell them, you may just start giggling, and that's good, because that means you're feeling something together. You're experiencing something together. You may start crying because you may feel overwhelmed with emotion. Let that happen. If you're NIDA at the time, and we'll talk about NIDA and vacation, all that, but if you're NIDA at the time, that shouldn't stop you from doing an exercise like this. You can do an eye gaze exercise. You can sit, at with your knees, not touching, but, almost touching, and just look at each other for 60 seconds and just gaze into each other's eyes and see what comes up, and feel the connection, feel the awkwardness, feel the silliness, feel the excitement, feel the, it's, so that's another exercise. And again, I can send references. We can add that to our, to our notes or whatever. And then maybe someone wants to talk a little bit about sensate focus and how that can help couples.
I think before we get to that, I just would like to recall that going for a walk is also a nice thing to do. And particularly, you don't have to worry about finding a babysitter and worrying about what time you have to be home. And I think people can also learn to tolerate the silence. In other words, it's not always that we need to fill up the space with words. People walking down a road and holding hands and just enjoying the moment of not having anything to worry about and not being anywhere and have no responsibilities. I think that in and of itself becomes an intimate experience that is not disconnected from either previous life experiences or things that people may do for 2 or 3 minutes and now they can do for a half an hour. Often I think people are more comfortable with those aspects of whatever non-sexual sensuality we're talking about here, that allows them to return to the familiar and not only feel they need to incorporate the new. I think people need to be encouraged that whatever helped them before to have this kind of emotional connection and even a minimal physical connection, this is a time now to return to that and perhaps even enhance that experience before they move to something that requires a different kind of either touch or look or life experience or talk or whatever. They can do what's comfortable for them. They can do what's familiar to them.
Thank you.
And
yeah,
I just
Lizzie.
want to ask Jody about Snarch. Is he the one? I mean, is what you're talking about, the hugging to relax, is that about like if you hug the cuddle hormone, so that if people cuddle for about 20 minutes, that oxytocin kicks? It's not 20 minutes?
That's the Snarch.
That's
I
not
don't
Snarch.
think that's him,
But I think it
but
goes together. It's not Snarch, but it goes together with the idea of if
Can you explain it a little bit?
well, there's a hormone called is it a hormone?
oxytocin.
Oxytocin, or yeah, oxytocin. And if a couple, it's actually the hormone that brings the letdown reflex for when mother is breastfeeding, and then she looks at her kid and she has this warm, loving feeling and trusting feeling with her, not trusting, loving feeling with her child. So the same thing happens with couples. If you hug for about 20 minutes, I'm not on the minute, but I'm just saying if you hug for long enough, this hormone kicks in, and then you feel close to each other, and then you feel that warm, fuzzy feeling. And I always tell people, make sure you hug. for enough time, cuddling on the couch will bring on those feelings of closeness and trust between the couple. So it's not snarch, but it's also good. It's also good
Sounds
stuff.
good.
Drop him a note, he'll attach it.
And
Oh,
I think also, you had mentioned Sensei Focus. Sensei Focus is, do you want to explain it a little bit to the audience?
Yeah, Sensei Focus is an exercise that I always tell people not to look up online because there's so many different variations of Sensei Focus. The main idea is to focus on your senses. It's similar to what you were saying before, Judith, in terms of thinking about all of your senses. But it's in a relationship context. It's in a romantic context. It's in a physical context, not necessarily a sexual context. The idea is to, it starts with massage, right? So it could be, a non-sexual massage, to be able to just learn one another. And even if you think you know one another, you don't, because quite honestly, as we, grow and age and our life situation changes, we don't even know ourselves sometimes. So open up some opportunity and just learn what feels good in terms of sensual touch. There's a difference between sensual touch and sexual touch, although they do overlap. But there's a difference, and you just take the time, you take turns, you give your spouse a massage, and you can decide together if you want that to be with clothes, tops on or off, if you want to use oils or lotions. And if you are the giver, you're focusing on what it feels like to give touch. And if you are the receiver, you're focusing on what it feels like to receive touch. And then you communicate that in positive statements. In other words, if something feels good, you say that feels really good. If something doesn't feel as good, you say, can you move? It felt really good when you were a little bit to the left, sort of like when you're trying to scratch someone's itch and they're like a little to the left, a little higher. It felt really good when, if you would push a little bit harder, and it would feel really nice if, I really enjoy a more tickly sort of touch, and it opens up conversation. Now, just as a spoiler alert, there's Sensei Focus 1, Sensei Focus 2, Sensei Focus 3. It's progressive. So, it can lead to sexual activity, but it doesn't have to. And sometimes deciding that you're going to have a sensual experience without the expectation of a sexual experience at the end gives us permission to really feel what feels nice. So it's a fun exercise.
Sounds great.
Jody,
Okay.
as a lay person, I think you really hit it right on the point there. I think men are so different, obviously, as women. Men are so guided by sex, and women are more guided by touch and by feelings. And I think it's really important that the woman delineates what she would like and what makes her feel good. And that it may be just touch, it may be rubbing your hair, maybe touching your cheek, it may be hugging, and to delineate that to the man, saying, this is what I really would like, and not to make him feel like I'm here for one reason only. No, this is something men are not good at that. Men, go in a bedroom and they go away and they expect one thing and how quickly can we do it and so on. But women don't, and I have to agree with them to set up the expectation. And it's not one night. You set up a week ahead of time, or say, this is what I really would like to happen, or this really makes me feel good. And I think the man understands that if you delineate it just correctly.
Yeah, I guess you got some of the brains too.
Not as much. But
it's such a great point, because you as a man are saying that you would appreciate that, that you may, sort of be in one mindset, but you would appreciate hearing that, that input, and it would help the relationship sort of move into a great place.
Yeah, and even if the woman tells the man, look, this is what makes me feel good, this is what I want, and you don't have to expect sex every time. Just like somebody else said, feel good at the moment. This is what makes me feel good. And the man can say the same thing. You know, I like you to rub my hair. I like you to rub my temples, and to delineate what makes you feel good. And very often, if you take sex out of the picture and say, we can spend a weekend just walking, like David said, walking, talking, discussing things. And if sex is basically taken off the table or not pressured, it's much easier. It's much, much easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's not done enough. And the man is not being told enough. This is what I need to do. This is what I'd like to have. And men are, men are so one-sided. And unfortunately, that's genetically, we don't have the oxytocin that you women have, So we just, it's a little different.
Thank you.
But I think, yeah.
Thank you. I just want to move into the next question. I'm just looking at the time here. And one of the transitions that I want to make is to start to discuss, we've been speaking a lot about when you go away with it's just you and your spouse, but we really know that most people go away with their whole families. And therefore, one of the questions that really does arise is how we can bring fun into the vacation fun when the whole family is there. Meaning, how can we act as couples when you've got all your children around? So, Lizzie, you want to take that one?
Sure. Okay. Listen, I think couples know how to do this in the house also. They know how to cut out some time for themselves. And I think when you go on vacation with your kids, it's also legitimate to say, okay, kids, mommy and daddy just want some private time. I think that's reasonable as long as the kids are being supervised. Kids, we know how to sneak around our kids. We have to make sure that we carve out time for each other, even if it's a vacation with them. I just think that we know how to do that. We know how to just figure out ways to make time to get away. If there's a hot tub in the room, we just close the door. If you need to sneak out into the forest and just to be together a little bit, I think couples know how to, or they can think together about wherever they are, how to sneak around. Again, the same thing that, not always when you're on vacation is it the same thing as when you're at home. It could be better, but it also could be harder if you're in a yurt or if you're in a cabin. It's not easy. But we always say on these webinars that intimate touch is, don't forget about that. Like, don't forget to always hold each other, hug each other. And if the opportunity arises, great. And maybe we should even lower some of our expectations a little bit, that it's going to be hard when the kids are around in such small quarters. But you never know if you can figure it out. I think people do.
I think it's also important to remember that usually in our homes, there's a lock on the bedroom door, and that might not always be available. If you have a cabinet with 2 rooms in it, the internal doors may not have locks on them. And I think parents need to be aware of that and need to act accordingly. Need to put a chair under the doorknob on one side to make sure that no one come in, then do that. But it would not be wise to assume that just because all the kids are sleeping, that therefore they're not going to get up until 7 o'clock in the morning and you have the night free. So I think parents need to have that level of concern about what are the potentials that may in fact interfere with with a kind of intimate life that they're looking for. In addition, I think that as Lizzie points out here, our expectations need to be in accord with what's going on. In other words, if we're having a family vacation, that might not be the time for enhanced sexuality. That might not be the time to bring something new. That might not be the time to try a position that you never tried before. A family vacation has its own sort of expectations and rules and regulations. And generally, I think as parents, we're more concerned that our children are enjoying the experience than that we are. And if after, I think somebody said at the beginning, Lizzie, you said that we need a vacation after vacation. If we do need a weekend away after being with the kids for 10 days someplace, then that would be something that should be considered within our budget expectations as well. And in fact, allow us to sort of recuperate from the vacation and get back to a normative kind of lifestyle. So it is a challenge, but I think that the challenge needs to, again, be in accord with people communicating with each other about what their expectations is, given the kind of physical, the kind of physical space that's going to be available for this family.
It's also an opportunity to model for our children when we are going on a family vacation that parents can show that they have a special bond. If you're doing a water teal or whatever and you slip and you grab for your husband's hand, or he grabs for your hand, or and you sort of like giggle and hold on to each other for a second longer, or the way that you work together and the way that you sort of just like lean on each other when no one's watching any movies in a hotel now, in a movie theater now, but if you're watching a family movie, for your kids to see that affection, that their parents have, this special bond and show affection to one another in a way that's appropriate in front of the kids, right? And comfortable in front of the kids is such a wonderful opportunity to educate the kids about a healthy sexuality, healthy physicality, and what that means in a marriage.
It's really, really important. I'm just looking at the time here, so I wanted to just maybe end with like a note of like, how can we actually take the concept of vacation sex and bring it back? Meaning like all the fun, and let's say like they had a great time in the cabin and they reconnected and it was amazing, or they tried something different, it was so good. How do they then take it back and bring it into their everyday life?
The shampoo bottles.
Yeah, my kids
The
can't look
shampoo bottles. They have the smell of vacation.
That is true. That is true.
I think whatever you packed in your bag, you should make sure to use at home. Bring it back with you. If that's something that worked for you, it was something nice that, whether it was the candles, the wine, the special negligee, I don't know, or the surprise, whatever worked well then, bring it home. And it's always welcome. I mean, we are at home most of the time, so bring that back home. And also the feelings of giving each other time. At home we're so rushed, but I think making sure that we have time for each other when we come home is also.
I think also couples need to be able to look at the experience of being away on vacation. And in fact, if there was an enhanced sense of whatever level of intimacy that they wanted to be on and it worked for them, I think they need to talk about that before they go home. So what did we have in this experience that we can bring back to our lives? Is there something that we can change in our bedroom? Is there something that we can change in terms of our timing? Is there something we can change in trying not to be so exhausted so that at the end of the day, we do have the opportunity and the energy to be together? I think that's worthy of significant communication before couples leave and say, we did have this great time. We were able to achieve something. We had planned well for it. Our expectations were met. We were not disappointed. And now what happened here in these 2 nights, in these 3 nights, that we can bring back with us? I think if they don't have that conversation, then the expectations again may not be matched in any way. And then the opportunity for miscommunication becomes rife. And I think this is an easy conversation to have because it's one that's based on success. It's one that's based on closeness. It's one that's based on a new level of understanding or communication or intimacy. So what do we do about taking those experiences, taking those feelings? What can we do to bring them back to the lives that we have, even though our day-to-day lives are as chaotic as they were before we went on vacation? But is there some small thing even that we can change that we can say and look back on the vacation and say, look what we learned about each other. Look what we learned about being together. And now what can we bring into our lives? I think that's a very, I think it's an activity that is a good ending for the vacation and an opportunity to sort of have a transition from the vacation back to the lives that they left before they went on vacation.
Yeah, it's very well said. Very well put together. I think also I'm just, thinking practically, when Jody mentioned to look at the wedding album, and I was thinking, when Dr. Rubin was like, what do you take back? I'm like, oh, so take photos, take a picture of your vacation, take a picture of what you went through. And like, hopefully they'll also be as reminders to you to constantly think about that. And I think also the concept that like, you don't have to actually go away on vacation to have a vacation, right? The idea that we really do need to be setting aside one night a week, at least a date night, a time to reconnect, whether it be a sexual way or whether it's emotional, but some way of like reconnecting. You kind of think about that like in the way that Judaism is set up. We have that with Nida, that there's like an automatic once a month for those people who are experiencing periods once a month. There's an automatic once a month thing where women have to, and men, like the couple together, has to like think about their sexuality and they prepare for it. And like she takes a bath and hopefully he takes a shower, or she takes a shower and he takes a shower. They're getting clean. They're preparing themselves. They're thinking about what kind of things they're wearing, and they put a lot of energy into it. And I think that's something that should be happening, not just on mikveh night, but also, periodically. That's not just about like upkeep sex, as they say, but rather spending time and enhancing that. And perhaps they could realize when they go away that that's something that they want to put into their lives to make that change, to make that date night happen.
Yeah.
Any other comments on that? Okay. I want to thank all of you for your questions, and to thank all of our speakers for their time. Just wanted to, excuse me, we've heard a lot of experiences and ideas and suggestions, and hopefully all of them will be helpful. We want to remind everyone that this is, a suggestion specifically for this question. However, there's not a one size fits all answer. That individuals and couples experience things differently, and no one is alone, right? Everyone is encouraged to seek out assistance if they're in a situation that requires that. There are all the therapists that were here tonight in this evening that are available to meet with you and to discuss your issues further. We wish everyone a happy vacation, hopefully, and an encouragement to go out and create that vacation. So we look forward to seeing you next session. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining.
Good night, all.
We don't hear you, Noam.
I said thank you very much for a great session. Laila Tov.